Most Cincinnatians know our hilly city once boasted 5 inclines to Price Hill, Fairview, Bellevue, Mount Auburn, and Mount Adams. Our upstream neighbor in Pittsburgh installed its first incline railway in 1864. Although that first incline carried nothing but coal for several years, it was soon adapted to passenger service. Pittsburgh had 3 functional inclines before Cincinnati's first went into operation, and it still has 2 functioning inclines. From May 12, 1872, when the Mount Auburn Incline first went into service, until the last bus debarked from the Mount Adams Incline on April 16, 1948, more than 3/4 of a century had passed. By the time the inclines ceased running, years of deferred maintenance had rendered them unsafe and in need of expensive renovation. Entranced by the automobile, Cincinnati demurred to our historic loss. The Price Hill Incline was one of the most unique among Cincinnati's inclines because it was really 2 inclines. In fact, some people count this as 2, making a total of 6. Also, it remained private and never hauled streetcars. William Price, after whose father, General Reese E. Price, name was given to the hilltop location, built it. It was actually 2 planes built side by side, starting at West 8th Street and Glenway Avenue and going up to West 8th Street and Matson Avenue. The first side was built in 1874 and had 2 cars for passengers. The freight was finished in 1876 and carried 3 or 4 heavily loaded wagons waiting their turn to get up the hill. In 1928, the steam engines were replaced by electric motors, the only incline to do so. Nothing came of it, so in December 1929, the freight plane was finally shut down to the falling off of the number of teams being hauled. The motor truck and the improvement of the streets brought this about. However, before it shut down, it carried buses. By 1943, the passenger side was in need of so many repairs that the incline company decided to shut down, and so ended the second to last of the inclines. Now, only Mount Adams remained to operate 5 more years, and then they would all pass into history. The Fairview Incline was the only incline constructed for streetcars and ended up as passenger only. All others started out as passenger and were converted to streetcars, except Price Hill that remained passenger. Fairview Incline did not go to a resort unlike the other Cincinnati inclines. It went from McMicken Avenue, Brown Street, to Fairview Avenue. In 1921, because of badly needed repairs, it was declared unsafe for streetcars, and stationary bodies were mounted for foot passengers. The streetcar company built a road around Fairview Hill to replace the incline. The road was completed in 1923, and the incline shut down on December 24, 1923. Officially, the Bellevue Incline was the Cincinnati and Clifton Incline Plain Railroad, which was built at the head of Elm Street at McMicken Avenue in 1876 and went to Ohio Avenue. The ornate Bellevue House beckoned the city dwellers and visitors to ascend the incline and see the view from the vantage of the veranda. It lasted until 1926. The Mount Auburn Incline plane was the first of these remarkable structures to be built. This was opened to the public in 1872 and ran from the head of Main Street the length of 900 feet to a point on the crest of the hill known as Mount Auburn, 312 feet high. After the terrible accident of October 15, 1889, which resulted in the releasing of a car at the head of the incline and its rushing with lightning-like speed to the foot, carrying death and destruction with it, this plane was remodeled in 1890 at a cost of $200,000. After the control of this line had passed into the hands of the Consolidated System, this plane was demolished and abandoned. They called it the Mount Auburn Horror the day when the passenger car of the city's first incline rocketed downhill and shattered into flinders at the top of Main Street, ending 6 lives. It was noon on October 15, 1889, and the busy incline had just carried 9 passengers to the top of the hill. The steam-powered lift engine squealed as the car neared the summit, and the operator panicked as the brakes failed. He pulled on the lever with all his might, but the car slammed into the structure at the top of the hill. The cables snapped, and the car shot downhill in free fall. At the bottom, the car crashed through a pair of wrought iron gates with such violence that the roof was sent sailing down the street and bodies bounced in every direction. Of the 9 passengers, 6 died of horrible injuries. The incline never recovered. Although it resumed service 5 months later, passengers sought alternative routes, and the Mount Auburn Incline closed in 1898. The Mount Adams Incline was the longest-lived of the inclines, the most well-known, and was finally abandoned in 1948. It was constructed for streetcars and did accommodate wagons and, in later years, automobiles. This incline was 230 feet to 270 feet in elevation. The Zoo Eden car used the incline and carried many of the zoo over the years, as this was the favorite way of getting there. The reasons the car cars stopped using the incline was because the bridge over the entrance to Eden Park had deteriorated and the cars were no longer allowed to cross it. For about a year after the buses used it, and on April 16th, 1948, it was shut down. Automobiles could use it, and it was a short and interesting way to Eden Park. The fare was 25 cents for cars and drivers, and 5 cents for each passenger, and pedestrians were 5 cents each. At the top of the incline was the Highland House, a brilliantly lighted showplace where even political meetings and conventions could be held. As the end of gay 90s period approached, the Highland House fell victim to the Sunday closing laws and finally was razed in 1895, but the incline continued for another half a century. Along with the Price Hill Incline, this was the most photographed incline. The pictures tell the story.